guys, it's Evan from RiversEdgeCutlery.com. Today I have a tag video for you guys. This one's going to be the 3 knives for life. So the premise behind this video is
So, I have been called out by a couple of friends. The first one being Brad with Screaming Pirate EDC, and somewhat the second one being Ricky, or Captain Ricky, as a lot of you know him on Instagram. I think he probably would have called me out if I hadn't already been. So the topic at hand today is 3 knives for life. And the original video, which was made by Rivers Edge Cutlery, kind of talked about if you had a fire, if your girlfriend asked you to sell all of your knives, but keep 3, what would those knives be? And, what a perplexing question that is, and a difficult one for those of us that are infatuated with all things sharp. I mean, not even talking about knives, I've got more than 3 axes sitting in this office right now. Machetes, hatchets, pocket knives, all kinds. I bet if I'm looking at sharp objects, I probably have 70 to 80 plus items just in this office. So narrowing knives alone down to 3 is a monolithic task, gargantuan. But I've taken the last few days to think about it and arrive at my 3 choices. So, first one, and for obvious reasons, the first knife on my 3 knives forever list is, of course, going to be a knife of my own design. This is the Renegade Provisions Co. Cogungner. This knife would be in my permanent collection, one, because it's a knife of my design. It has not only functional meaning to me, but it also has a great amount of sentimental meaning to me as well. I designed this knife on paper. I drew what I wanted in a knife. So when I think about my day-to-day work, this is the knife that hit the top of that list. When I'm thinking about the things that I do on a daily basis, this large hollow grind blade really fits all of the criteria that I need. It's just pointy enough here at the end to do some stabbing tasks, and with that beautiful hollow grind, it is nice and slicey. But it's robust enough to fit well in my hand. All manner of grips. It is nice and comfortable, and it's a good hard working knife. I know it's a little bit biased of me to say that, but it is. It is a good hard-working knife, and I have put it through the tests. So this knife is number 1. The other thing that I'm going to go into with this 3 knives for life, a lot of people will go at this 3 knives for life kind of challenge a little bit differently. I use my knives as tools to make my day easier, to use them for work, to do whatever I need to do to cut time out of my day, to cut effort out of my day, to make overall my day a little bit more simple. So this is not looking at collection factor. So if I'm just looking to shock and awe myself with the 3 knives, the 3 knives that I would choose would be completely different. But these are 3 knives for life. It's like, what 3 books would you take on a deserted island? You're not going to take just a pure joy book. You're going to take something of meaning, something of sustenance. And that's what these knives are. So let's go into number 2, which is a completely different realm of knife. And it is the Pena Swayback Large. So very similar reasons for this knife. And you can actually see very similar builds. Black micarta, tie bolsters, made by the same company. The Pena Swayback would be another knife that would go onto that list, primarily because it fits a lot of the same tool purposes as the Cogungner does, but also because it adds a new complexity. So if I'm looking to carry a very, very small knife, The Pena Swayback Large is going to fit that. And a lot of people say, well, it has large in the name. How can it be small? It's small for me. You know, this knife disappears in my hands. You know, it's kind of a tight grip, but if I loosen up my hand into the typical comfortable grip that I would have, the handle of this knife disappears. I mean, I can almost thumb touch the tip of this knife. But with this kind of sweeping Wharncliffe / sheep's foot style blade, this adds a lot more into piercing factor. So if there are different tasks that I have that I want to use, I've mentioned multiple times that I am an apiarist, a beekeeper, and this is a knife that I actually really, really enjoy using in my hives, as well as the next one that's going to be in my list. The nice easy point here makes it really easy to, if I'm cleaning hive frames, I can get into the little areas, so I don't even have to remove the frames, but I can kind of peel away some of that wax, some of that propolis, some of those different things that the bees are putting in there to prevent the hive from being taken apart. I have to clean those out to make it a little bit easier for me to maintenance the hive on an ongoing basis. This knife works very, very well at making those tasks a little bit easier for me. Form and function are amazing, and with this kind of flipper up here on the top, I really have no issues operating this knife whatsoever, even with my beekeeper's gloves on, which are gloves that come kind of all the way up to the elbow to keep those stings from getting through. So, knife number 2 in the list, Pena Swayback Large. Now, the final one, and by no mean the lesser of any of these three, and probably a pretty surprising one in my list, considering, like I said before, I am a big knife guy. Final knife in the 3 list is the Vox F55. This is the micarta version, and you may notice that it's a little bit different color than a lot of the other ones, and that is because this one was anodized and dyed by MB Wild in the Grog colorway. Again, this knife is purely, for me, utilitarian. We've got, again, that sheep's foot, nice shallow belly. We've got just a stout little utilitarian blade, nice, easy to use liner lock, super, super simple design. And this is another favorite of mine to use in the beehive. The nice short blade, I can do a lot of work with it. It's not super piercy, so if I'm not wanting to jam into something or if I'm not wanting to snag another frame, I can use this. And the blade is stout enough on this one that I'm actually not incredibly reserved to use this to pry a little bit. And I'm not talking about, you know, ramming this in under a forklift and trying to pry it up off the ground. I'm talking just about like cutting down in between frames, cutting that wax away, doing a little twist or a little pry to get those frames to separate so that I can pick them up out. We're not talking about more than a few pounds of force, but this knife works very, very well at that. It's also a knife that fits well in the hand, a nice little 3-finger grip, and much like the Cogungner, it has this jimping a little bit farther forward on the blade, which makes it really, really great to get a very good, solid grip on it and work with the knife, get some work done. And I'm both ecstatic and a little remiss to say that this one will probably be leaving my collection in lieu for the Urban EDC Supply brass scaled LMAX version. So I love micarta. I love the micarta bolster style, but I really like a little bit more of a stout feeling in the hand, which the micarta version of this just kind of lacks on a little bit. And who doesn't love brass with an anchor CNC'd into the handle? So that is my 3 knives for life list. This is a list that would probably change from time to time, but looking at the current collection that I have, out of the knives here, if I take out kind of that collection factor, and I'm just looking at purely utilitarian. What would I pick up every day if I only had 3 to pick up? And this is the list that I came up with. So, in summary, Renegade Provisions Co., Cogungner, The Beast, Pena, Swayback, Large, and Vox F55. So, thank you very much for taking the time to watch this video. In the comments below, I would like to have a conversation with you. What are your 3 knives for life? And I'd love to know your reasons why. Thank you guys very much for watching another video, and until next time, I think I'm going to have a glass of whiskey.